Drew,
All
quick
right,
question.
go ahead.
I did both quizzes, but I had a difficulty on the third quiz where to do the Excel sheet. That's the only thing I
Mhm.
had problems with. But the other ones, I did. I finished it.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, at the end I'll show you guys the list of people that did the homework and then who hasn't done yet, and I'll give you guys few extra days for homework to be done.
All right.
Today's class will probably be more helpful to do those homework, and the homework was purely based on your research because we didn't cover a lot of things that work on the homework. So you would have to do the research before you would answer those questions. So we'll just go over the list of people who did the homework and who needs to do it in the next couple of days at the end. Okay, so today we're just gonna talk about more testing, and one of the important thing that I mentioned yesterday is that being a good tester doesn't mean that you are a tech savvy person who knows how to code, who basically is an expert on networking, coding and everything, right? Like, you're a tech expert, you have latest technology and gadgets at home. That's
Your mic cut out, Joe.
Jill, we can't hear you.
Okay, 1 second.
Now we
It's
could
good
get.
now.
Yeah.
okay. What about now? That's good.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. My headphone just keeps goes and come on. Okay, that's fine. You guys can see the screen also, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. What I was trying to say is, I don't know if you guys heard me in the beginning, is that if you want to be a good tester, you don't have to be the person who knows how to code, who has maybe like 10 iPads at home and who has Alexa and all of that set up at home, right? You don't have to be a tech savvy person to be a good tester, to be a great tester, actually. But obviously, I'm not promoting that, you don't want to be a tech person. Obviously, you want to be a better than average Joe. But what makes a good tester is that somebody who pays attention to details, somebody who has critical thinking, and somebody who actually spends a lot of time. So we're going to be doing a lot of reading and putting a lot of time in order to be a really, really good tester and provide the value to our team. Um, and and obviously the coding part will help to make you better than what you will already be. Um, but that's one of the reason why we're gonna focus today to make sure that you get the idea of a good tester, of a mindset of a good tester. Even on the interview, if somebody asks you what makes a good tester, and the answer will be surprisingly like, okay, you're some people will obviously say, oh, somebody who knows how to do automation, somebody who knows the, uh, how to get around tech wise and they're tech savvy, and those are not valid answers, right? My answers to that interview question is always somebody who has a very good interest of learning the product, who knows exactly what the product is and how the customers are using the product, somebody who has eye for a QA, meaning they can spot a bug real fast because they know the product. They also have a lot of dedication. That means they don't just sit around and wait for somebody to assign a task, but they're just going out and resolving issues so that way they can continue doing their work. And so that is the description of a good tester, because a tester is like almost like independent, right? We don't just go and wait for like managers to say, okay, come and do this. We actually provide our input to say, okay, I want to do this, regression test because I am concerned about this, or I want to do that kind of testing because I'm concerned about that. And we bring those up during team meetings to make sure that we provide those kind of value and always double, triple check the application before going live. So with that said, some of the qualities of a QA engineer should have, right? And you can see like not very much about coding here. It's more like, okay, critical thinking, right? You cannot be a person who just easily pleased, right? Especially if you're a QA person. You could be a QA in a restaurant. You're just testing food, right? You can't just go and eat everything that the chef is bringing to you and say, yeah, everything's tasty, right? You have to think that, okay, what does the customer will feel about it? Okay, my customers are 60 years old. Are they going to like this soup? And so you just have to always think about how does my customer will feel if I'm specifically looking into anything that I'm testing, for example. The other thing is patience, right? Why patience is that, let's say you found a bug and you start jumping up and down and running to developers and really like on their face. Oh, yeah, there is 10 bugs. Can you fix it? Can you fix it? But then the developers are busy, for example, and then you go and you're pretty much putting on their face, okay, 10 bugs. But those bugs may not be the priority. Those bug could be less priority, and you're making a lot more noise than what it should be. Or maybe those are not bugs at all, right? So that means that when you find a bug, you triple check because you don't want to be embarrassed. Remember, you are a QA engineer. You are a QA expert, right? Imagine you are making a mistake, right? So imagine like, a cop is breaking the law. That's how you should feel when you make a mistake. Imagine you are sending an email to your manager, and you don't have 2 seconds to read or at least read your own email before sending, because you just want everything to be done. You don't have the patience. You just want everything to be done, quick. They gave you an assignment and you rushed it, okay? Because you want to show them that you're really good QA and you can do more than one task, and you rushed it, okay? You finished in half a day, and other QA usually takes 2 days. Now, immediately your manager is happy, but then after the release, guess who's not happy, right? And then they're gonna question it. How come, how could you finish this so quickly? And so did you pay attention to this or that, right? So when you do it that quickly, you are definitely going to leave out something, right? One of the rules of thumb that I tell everybody is that if you tested something and you found no issues, okay, good, test it again. There must be something, right? Developers, they always leave something out. It's not like they're dumb, but also they don't read, or at least they don't really understand the customer's need. But you do, right? You understand the customer's need because you have the product knowledge. You understand the entire product. So you would have to actually do your research, understand, test it, retest it, test it again. And then on your third try, you feel like there is no bug, then you let it go. But if there is no bug, you're testing a feature and you found no bug, you should be suspicious. You should be suspicious, like why there is no bug. Is the code even deployed? If the code is updated, you talk to the developers like, hey, I tested this and your code is already in this environment or not, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, it is. You double check, triple check. Because in the past, what has happened is that you go in there, you do the testing and all, and you feel like developers your friend, and you're gonna go and be like, hey, John, I finished your work. Actually, I finished your story. I tested it properly. Everything looks good. You did good, right? And then John comes to you like, I didn't push my code. Who's embarrassed? John
You are.
didn't even Exactly. John didn't even push his code. What did you test then? What is it that you tested, right? So think about it. It's very, very important that you are patient, you're not easily pleased, and you're not excited, take everything to the point where, like you should be the hardest person to please, you shouldn't even smile, right? When you're working. I mean, don't take my word for it, but I'm saying in that, not in that sense, like smile, meaning like, just take your time, have patience, and always think that there is a bug. There must be a bug at somewhere. At some point, you should find a bug. And if you don't find a bug and you tested 3 stories, then you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. Trust me, there is always a bug. Okay. And that's why you're there. Then obviously attention to detail is the same thing. Flexibility is where you can't think that everything is done based on the same process. You're not working in accounting. You're not working in cash register where the standard process and you go through that. Everything will be different. Every time you test something, it's always different because this new thing hasn't been done before. This is something that is done for the first time, and you have to come up with better ways to test it, right? So you have to be very flexible, and you also have to make sure that when you're in the meeting, you're not just muting yourself and looking at something else, right? You want to focus, you want to understand what they're saying, you want to participate, right? That's when you provide the value, and that's what makes you a good QA. You are the owner of the application after the product owner, right? And you work for the product owner. We treat product owner as a customer. They are the customer, they are the user, right? So if you if you are the gatekeeper and you are the customer, you're the first customer before it goes to the actual customer, right? So you want to make sure that everything is done properly. Even if, let's say, you're reading a requirement, remember the first thing of SDLC? Who can tell me the whole SDLC process when you do the testing? Let me ask somebody here. Farah, why don't you tell me?
Okay, so we're
SDLC.
talking about STLC.
Mhm.
That's software testing life cycle. We study the requirement, and then we do the testing of the scenarios. Third, we do the test cases. Fourthly, we execute them. Fifth, we log them and track the bugs. Finally, the sixth would be the release itself. And seventh will be maintaining.
Great. Okay, that's good. So now if you get an assignment, do you have to ask somebody like, what should I do next? Imagine you join a company for the first time, and this is more for the freshers, like people that are, learning for the first time. You join a company, you get an assignment. Do you have to be panicked? Like, oh my God, what should I do next? What am I gonna do? You don't have to be. You already know the SDLC process. What you need to ensure is that are they following that specific steps, or are they missing steps, right? Because some companies, they will try to skip 1 or 2 steps in the middle because maybe they feel differently, right? So you want to make sure that that specific team, follows the same exact steps. More or less, it'll be maybe more steps or it'll be less steps, right? So whatever is the case, you want to make sure that before you start testing, that you're following their process. Excellent communication is definitely needed because you found a bug and somehow you're not able to communicate, because once you find a bug, you're the shining star of the entire show, right? So you found a bug and you went ahead and started making a lot of noise, meaning you are posting it in the groups, right? So everybody has a group, just like this WhatsApp group, you will have your team group. Now you found a bug, you already logged it. That means you provided all the details and what happened, where steps, the pictures and all of that, right? And then you post it in the group. Hey guys, just so you know, I found a bug. This is a critical one. Let me know if you guys can take a look at it ASAP, right? Now, when you post that, that's communication. And why do you communicate that? Is because let's say in your group, you got 4 testers and Lahul being the third person there. And he also came across the same bug and he's in the process of logging it because he wants to also, report it. And now let's say Fabio already reported that bug and he never communicated it. Lahul already probably spent half an hour just creating that bug, for no reason. And then when Lahul posts the bug in the group, and you already have a log, but you didn't post it, you're gonna feel betrayed, right? You're gonna feel like, wow, he's stepping on my foot. Why is he taking my bug? He's taking my credit. Okay. And that's what's gonna happen, right? Because you're not properly communicating. When you find a bug, it's a big deal. You find a bug, let's say as small as maybe the word C on the requirement should be capital, right? But you found in the text on the web page, the C is lowercase, and that's a bug. That's still a bug because it's not meeting the actual expectation. Anything that does not meet your expectation is a bug, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh, this application crashed. The application, did this. No, it doesn't have to be that dramatic, right? I mean, if application crashed, everybody knows. You don't have to worry about it. So now this is the level of communication. You want to take credit as much as possible. You want to, put your presence in the team, and you want to be the person who will take full responsibility of the bug. Meaning, since you logged it, you're going to communicate. You're going to be tracking. You will talk to the developer who needs help to make sure that he can fix the bug. Because sometimes when you find a bug, but then developers, they can't find the same bug. And you may think like, oh, this guy is such a dummy, can't find the bug. It's so small. It's right there. It's right there. And that doesn't help the developer. You know why? Because maybe the developer are following a different steps than you are, right? Maybe they taking a shortcut, right? And you didn't take a shortcut. So you're gonna have to go in a meeting. You will have to then explain and say, hey, I just want to show you, this is how the bug looks like, right? And that's it. That's all it takes. You don't have to be, like, okay, I found a bug, I'm done, I move on to the next one. No, you'll basically take full ownership of that bug because you found it and you're passionate about it and you just want that to be fixed. Obviously, you're going to be working with developers to make sure that is being done. Okay. Quick to learn is the other thing, because nobody here, including myself, knows everything, right? Nobody knows everything. And the reason why you need to be quick to be learned, because everything that we do in an actual environment is that it's always going to be different. It's never going to be the same, right? So one day you might be testing, a feature that is as easy as login. Another day you might be testing a feature as easy, as complex as multi-factor authentication. Now, when you're doing that kind of testing, you don't know anything. Like, let's say that specific part of feature. So what do? You don't just panic and start Googling things, start using ChatGPT and start to doing things on your own. We don't do that. We basically try to be very specific to the product. So then you're gonna have to work with a developer who actually created the feature. And you're gonna say, hey, do you have a few minutes to give me a demo of what you did? And they will be happy to do it. They're not gonna say, oh, I don't have time. No, they're gonna be much happier to show you what they did because they're proud of what they worked on, right? This might be something cool and they feel very happy about it. So they will probably help you to make sure you understand what it is. And therefore it'll be easier for you to go and do the testing. So always quick to learn, that requires for you to also know where to get the information from. Always try your team before you go out there and doing something that may not be relevant to your product, and know your product. Okay. Collaboration and social skills is very important. Know exactly when to reach out to somebody and know exactly when not to reach out to somebody. And collaboration, meaning like, don't just keep it to yourself. Don't just feel like, you cannot ask the question, right? Everybody is, trust me, because I do a lot of training of existing QA engineers in various company. I'm not going to name them over the years. And some of these people, they are as good as somebody who's new here. Okay. And they've been working for 6, 7, 8, 9, 15, 10, whatever years. And so one thing is that always be nice, collaborate. You're not taking somebody's hours and they're not taking your hours. Nobody's cutting nobody's salary. If somebody's doing your work, okay, let them be, help them if you can. If not, move on with the next task, right? There's always going to be a task, and just always greet. I would say, like first thing first is in terms of like communication and collaboration. Collaboration is that if you struggle to do something and you already spent 2 hours of research and you can't do anything about it and you have no clue, reach out to somebody. If you reached out to somebody and that caused problem, let it be, don't worry about it. You should always give yourself time to say, okay, the next 2 hours, if I can figure this out, I have to reach out to somebody, right, of my team. It's better to reach out early than 3 days later, I don't know what to do with this, and then your manager's going to be like really shocked. Okay, who did you reach out? Why didn't you tell us early that you didn't know this? Why did you spend 3 days? What did you do last 3 days? So it's so much worse when you already spend the time and then you reach out, than reaching out in the very early and just say, hey, I'm working on this for the first time. It's been a while. I worked with this tool and I know a lot changed. Do you mind giving me a small demo before I get started? Or you can say, hey, do you mind giving me a list of things that you would expect from this task, so that way I can fulfill those. So it's better to always do that. So again, this slide is very important because all of these qualities, you have to put it in your mind and tell yourself that's what you have. You are that person until you slowly get that, right? So you got to tell these things to yourself all the time. Like, okay, I am somebody who always be critical. I don't just go and yes for an answer. I don't easily just taste the food and say, okay, everything's good, even though I didn't like it. So keep these items in your mind, and you will be that person. Personality matters a lot. You have to be in these personalities. Okay. Let's go into the next one. Yesterday, one of the question, again, today we're going more in depth, and we will cover from the next class. You're not going to see this kind of items. We're going to go more on the technical side, coding. We're going to start JavaScript in the beginning, and then we'll start to learn Playwright. So, pay attention to this class. This is the only class you'll get for manual testing. And again, this should cover it, but I will probably touch smaller items on the manual testing side when we do automation, because when we do automation, we have to do some manual testing and also, right? We have to come up with the test cases. So now let's think about what is a computer bug, right? And yesterday we discussed about it. Anything that doesn't meet user expectation is a bug. Here's a nice story about the bug also. Like, I feel like this story everybody should know if you're a QA, because at some point you'll probably joke about it with your coworkers. The first bug that was found in a computer was a real bug. Okay, so I think it's a fly or something. So a mechanical relay and glowing vacuum tubes are used by technical program. Okay, so this is like early stage computer, as you can see right here. It's like a room-sized computer. And moth is like almost like a, no, it's right here. This is the bug report. This is the actual bug report. And this fly was found, which actually shorted the equipment, right? And this was the first computer bug that was found, right? and this is not a made up story. So, and I guess like this was our early, tester. Look at, I mean, this is what you'd be testing, right? In a very early stage. So now to go on the technical side of the bugs is that if you have a requirement and you created your test cases or test scenarios, which has what is it that you're expecting, and then you follow through, you execute, and you find mismatch. You don't see that the requirement are fulfilling what you are expected. Those will be bugs, right? And it could be like sometimes it'll be like the feature may be nicer than what you found, right? So let's say, okay, let me give you a scenario. And you guys tell me, you are testing a feature on the application where when you click a link, it opens a small pop-up and tells the user, like some sort of greeting, maybe like good evening, good afternoon, whatever is the case. Okay. On the requirement, it says, okay, it's going to greet by, depending on the time of the day, good evening, good afternoon, and all that stuff, right? And on the requirement, it says that everything will start with like, let's say camel casing, like good evening should be, G should be capital, E should be capital, right? Every word should have capitalized, right? Now, you go and test the application and you realize it's not capitalized, right? You speak to the developer and developer says, no, it shouldn't be. Like, where do you see that everything is capitalized, right? Like when you see good evening, you don't see like everything is capitalized. Just the first letter is capitalized, right? So now the developer is right and the requirement is wrong, let's say, because of your understanding of this specific thing, right? So as a tester, what do you do? Let's see. Fabio, why don't you tell me?
As tester, you have to find if
So,
whatchamacallit.
so you went to the developer and developer is like, nah, man, what are you talking about? Go to Google. You know what? Go to log into Facebook. You see how they saying good evening? That's what I did.
No, you have to be
What?
more critical than that.
Yeah, but what do you say? I mean, what do you do next? Okay,
Mm,
let's see. Who else can I pick here? Jaidul, why don't you give us what would you do in this case?
Like email the like manager and like talk to like the people like that's like in the group chat about it.
Okay. But manager is busy, right? Imagine
Uh,
like all the QAs reaching out to managers like that.
I
It's gonna
think
be
you
too
should
much for the manager.
inform the project sprint scrum master or sprint project manager.
Okay. Okay, let's hear one more answer before we talk about so let's see who else should I choose. Marjana, do you wanna try? What would you do in this case? Like I'll give you the scenario. I'll play the scenario to you. I'm a developer. You came to me. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the requirement says everything should be uppercase, all the first letter, but then you did this way. And I'm like, now man, don't worry about it. Go log into Facebook, look how they doing it. It's good evening, G should be capital, E shouldn't be capital. Good morning, same thing. G should be capital, M shouldn't be capital. That's the right way what everybody else is doing. And so I corrected it. I corrected this because I feel like this is not the right way to go. Okay. So what do you say to me?
We can try documenting it. So, figure out and document where the requirements are unclear or incorrect, and we can note down any assumptions during the testing for the unclear requirements. We could also try communicating with the stakeholders or anyone else with the QA team to figure it out and raise the defect issues. Maybe like using a bug tracking system or testing tool.
Right. So like you got most of it correct, right? I mean, all of these scenarios, all of these things that you said, it's correct. And you can any of these this that you described, if you do it, you wouldn't be wrong. But also there is some things that you can do that could be even better. So for example, the developer is just brushing you off like, nah, go back to work, man. It's nothing, it's no big, right? But then I said it like a few minutes ago, anything that is not on the requirement is a bug. Right? That automatically triggers for us to create a report, bug report. But then you have to also learn from the nature of the team. You don't want to just create a bug report and then later somehow the business team comes and be like, oh, the developer actually did that right. We made a mistake. So let's go ahead and agree to his change. Right? So you did all that work for no reason, like if you create the bug. So then you're gonna say, oh, okay, I understand. Like you also have to be human, right? So you can say, okay, look, I understand what you did. Let me go and double check this. And with the business or with the stakeholder or with the product, right? Product team. If the product person, let's say now in this case, Farah is like, oh, okay, yeah, it's my mistake. I forgot. I was just copying and pasting, but John did it right, so that's good. What do you do next? So Farah was a product owner, and you're the QA, and Farah just confirmed verbally that John was right.
I have a question. I didn't quite understand the question itself. Would you mind repeating it?
Yeah, okay. The question is, you have a requirement, right? Where, let's say, when you click on a link, it tells you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, right? And on the requirement, it says that, for example, good morning, the first letter right here should be capital, and then M should be capital, right? Same goes for, good afternoon and good evening, right? Now the developer, he went ahead and implemented this pop-up. In that pop-up, he decided the second word doesn't need to be capitalized, only the first word, right? You investigated that, you worked with the developer, and the developers told you, nah, this is the right way. Then you said, okay, I'll go figure it out. I'll go find out from the business. And you went and spoke to Lucifara. And she said, yeah, you're right. I mean, he's right. Okay, let it be. What do you do next? As a QA. Remember, you're a critical person. You're a very critical person. What do you do next? Do you just let it go and then move on?
You ask what else may be incorrect?
Okay, I mean, maybe you asked that already. So what else? What do you do in this case? Do you just pass your ticket? Do you just say, okay, everything looks good to go, move on to the next?
I'm sorry. Hello, you.
Mhm.
So
Go ahead.
I'm guessing where you're leading on is to make sure that whether it's a priority to get that fix, like if it's really required to fix
No, but
the.
there is no fixing here, right? The product owner already said, okay, the developer
Oh,
is
okay.
right.
In that case, it could be like avoided, like just
Avoid,
like
meaning like
like
just
set
go,
up another
go.
ticket and say, it's not like set it up as a not priority, sort
What
of
do you
say.
mean? But then the issue is not resolved, right? I mean, you first had the question, two people validated that, okay, that's, the issue was actually product people didn't pay attention.
Right.
The developer did the right thing, right? But remember, we work for the product people, right? We take their word as source of truth, right? If product person says, if a product owner says, something, we take it, that's it, because they are the product, right? They define the product, right? They are the one who's actually making the product. They're the owner of the product, whatever they say, period. So you wouldn't do anything. You would just move on to the next task. and pass this ticket? Is that the answer?
No, no. I
Then
kind of like you said, you have to kind of like touch bases with the Scrum Master once again.
for what? What does Scrum Master do?
Jewel, can I take my take on it?
Yeah, sure.
If it was me, I would reach out to the business owner, the product owner rather, for an updated business document. It has to be documented that the first one was incorrect and here is the new one, and then I would proceed. This would be my take on it.
Exactly. So, well, you tell the product owner, hey, it's great that you're confirming that the changes was done correctly, but the requirement is not correct. Can you update the requirement and let me know before I continue with my testing? All right. So the product owner has to go back and update the requirement for two reasons. One is that if you continue to let it slide, the inconsistencies between the requirement and your test cases, at some point they will go back to those requirements and they're going to say you didn't test it properly, right? Because the requirement says it's this and you just somehow magically passed it, right? And there is no communication, there is no documentation that it was agreed upon. Even if the product owner writes a comment under the requirement to say, okay, I agree to keep it like this, right? It still doesn't make the requirement valid, right? Because what's going to happen is that nobody goes to the comments. There is endless comments, right? And we don't know which comment is the last updated, most up-to-date, with information, right? So for the best practices, you're going to say, all right, that's great for confirming. Let's go ahead and update the requirement. You're not going to move on without updating the requirement. Now, at this moment, you already went ahead and, bugged the, developer, and then product owner agreed to their mistakes. They have to go ahead and make that change. So that's like one reason why, right? The second reason is the auditing purposes. Okay, so a company gets audited by independent companies, meaning if you work for healthcare, if you work for finance, if you work with city, state job or a government job, time to time, all these user stories gets audited. They go into the user story, they see how a user story is passing through, is it following a proper process? And they will see your test cases, they'll cross-check, right? And that's when they will ask questions. How come the user story says this and then our application is saying that? Who passed this ticket? So it will always come back to you. So just keep that in mind. So that's the level of, detailedness that you need to have. Now here's the book definition of the bug, okay? So this is your list of categories that you can consider as a bug, right? Defect, right? Defect is one where you see visually or you see that the functionality is not proper. For some reason, it's doing the right thing, but then it's not doing the way that you want or the requirement. Any faults, any problems, you see an error, incidents, anomalies, any variance, right? Where somehow the first time you went, you see a specific way, and then the second time you see another way. Any failures, any inconsistencies, right? So let's say you work for Facebook, a new page was created, and in the new page, the colors doesn't match with the theme of the entire Facebook, right? Or something, or the text, the font style doesn't match, or whatever is the case. Product anomalies, you have the product incidents and the feature, okay? So these are a few things that you can consider as bug. Anything that you find, remember, your primary goal as a QA is to find all these things and report. So that way, a actual user of the application will not face these things and get frustrated and then go and use the competitors, right? A company shouldn't lose a business of a customer just because, we didn't do a proper testing. defective software. So give you a little bit, I'm going to run through some of the slides real fast because probably repeating. So, so basically the question goes like, okay, why do even developers create like programs that have flaws, right? And how do you know how many, like you can quantify how many there are, which kind, right? How can you forecast the future? And, you know, like these are a few questions that you may have where you feel like, wow, the developers are so smart and how can they come up with a defective software or have some flaws in it, right? Many times it's not about just, you know, developers, you know, not being smart, right? It's more about the requirement, design, implementation, and also the system support, right? So these are some of the source of problems that cause those bugs, and developers may or may not be aware of those. Like for example, requirement definition, where inconsistencies of the requirement, where maybe the first requirement says we want all of our buttons to be green and white, and then there's another requirement comes and says, oh, we want this specific button to be red and white, right? And now that conflicts with the previous one, right? The previous requirement where it says all of it. So now you have to actually verify, do we make an exception for this new requirement, or this is intended, or this is just, you know, a inconsistent requirement. There's also ambiguity where on the page itself, it says we just want a specific task, right? Like let's say, welcome to our awesome site, right? That's the task, text basically. Now, it doesn't say what the color should be. It doesn't say the size should be. It doesn't say where it should be. And developers make his assumptions because he thought, okay, I have the freedom because it doesn't say nothing about those. And he goes and creates it. The problem is going to be you when you're testing it and you're like, wait a minute, it has nothing to even create a test case because you don't know where that text should be on the page. You don't know what the structure of the text should be. You don't know the color. You don't know the, you know, size and style and all of that, right? So that's ambiguous requirement. The other thing is the design document. There could be like design flows where the design is done with an assumptions where is that it's everything looks good on the design, and then the developer couldn't actually achieve that due to technical, you know, challenges, right? So that's when you would have to talk to multiple stakeholders to make sure that somebody actually agrees to this change. Either the developer goes back and achieve, you know, what the design says, or the design, you know, UX designers change their mindset onto a specific, you know, item that they want very specific way. Then we got the implementation mistakes, you know, and cheap fabrications, you know, wearing, you know, programming faults, malicious code, you know, sometimes developers also want to do things rush, and they may end up patching it rather than doing the actual work. They may end up like just, okay, I'll just go ahead and do it dirty, quick and dirty fix. You know, that can also cause issues. For programming languages, so again, that is not something that we should be worried about, but this could be also where you join a team where their application already used a language that is, you know, ancient, maybe, you know, something that is 10, 15, 20 years, you know, of old, and they haven't updated for a while. The application is pretty old, and that will cause a lot more, you know, issues whenever there's a change takes place, right? And then misleading development tool, that means when developers are using their tools like unit testing, maybe they want to they write code, there is the, you know, IDE. So these are some of the tools can also create issues for something that we don't anticipate. Like sometimes tools have shortcuts where you can like literally change every single word in the entire folder, wherever that is, into a, you know, you can basically like select all and change. And developers sometimes do this kind of changes, and that may cause more issues than even like, you know, actual implementation. So this is just an example, but these are some source of problems, and there should be more. incomplete testing. So that's where you come in, where maybe somehow, you're asked to rush it, maybe like you're getting pressured and you feel like you want to make everybody happy for some reason. You don't want to upset your manager. You went on a meeting with your manager and he's asking what's going on, and you're saying, no, I'll be done tomorrow. Trust me, I'll be done tomorrow, end of the day. Tomorrow, end of the day comes and you're like, oh, I got 50 more test cases left. Oh, I'm gonna run through it. And then you deliver it, right? That could be another mistaken debuggings. Could be another issues where you're trying to look into the issue and then it's not very consistent. Maybe you're not finding the bug. It sometimes shows, but sometimes doesn't show. You didn't do proper lookup to find it. And evolution is the other one, where sloppy redevelopment or maintenance. So meaning like whenever application changes and they want to add something, there is a way to do that where they have to look at the old code. They have to see where that old code is affected, meaning what areas of the application. Now they just want to get this done real fast. They just create a new piece of code and then just slap it, on top of the old code. And that can cause a lot more issues. So even the maintenance phase will cause a lot more issues, and that's when you're going to end up doing a lot of regression testing. Just keep in mind, it's not like, oh yeah, developer made a mistake and you basically trust me, because you're going to be when you look at the developer, they're going to feel guilty by looking at you because you found an issue, but you never want to treat them like, wow, this guy, man, were you sleeping when you wrote this code? You don't want to have that kind of mindset or thinking, because you don't know what he went through to even achieve that feature. Sometimes they have countless sleepless night to just finish their work, and then you come and you tell them like, no, this is not good, it doesn't work, there's this bug and there's that bug. I mean, obviously we're not gonna just be nice and leave the bug alone. We're gonna still have to work with him to make sure that he fixes it, but we'll do it nicely. We're gonna just make sure that he doesn't also feel hurt, because that person built the feature. He thought it was good, but you found so many issues. He's already hurt. So let's just not gaslight it. Just be nice to the person and just tell them like, hey, you did good, everything is good. I just have few issues that you need to fix, and that's it, right? Keep that in mind. Okay, adverse effects of faulty software. So communication being one, and then basically this could have, I mean, we talked about this, I think, right? We don't want to even let me go into this. The reason why you're important, even more important than developer. Okay, I'll tell you. Developers are like the soldiers, right? They're the frontline soldiers. They do the actual thing. But you are the person who's like really the brain, right? You're the person who has to say this is right and this is not right, right? You're the filter to make sure that they're doing what they need to do, right? So you're more important than developer, especially on the product side, right? If I was a owner of the company, I would actually listen to a QA person and try to accommodate them rather than a developer. The other thing about developers is that because this is something like that I like to say, because some people, when they join QA, after some time they want to become a developer, and people that graduates from colleges with computer science degree, all they want to do is become a developer, and there's too many developers, right? When you become a developer, you're just going to be another person. You're just going to be another developer. Okay, you're very disposable unless you're in a different levels, right? Developers are more easy to replace than QA, because QA gets all the product knowledge, company knowledge, they know who to reach out, they know exactly what to do next. Developers write code. You can always find a coder in India, in Thailand, in China, right? So when you become a developer, it gets significantly harder for you to pass an interview because there's way too many candidates out there. So that's something that I want to mention if you ever want to think about it, to become a dev. And you don't want to be just another person in the team. Okay, so we talked about it. Again, the effect of faulty software can have real, big issues in people's life. Like if it's like airlines related, people can die. People actually lose money. Like, I'm talking about companies loses millions and millions of dollars because somebody forgot a specific test scenario, and that caused issue, right? Money management, for example, we got the even for like elections, control of jails, law enforcement. So these can really affect real life, people out there when you miss a specific scenario, right? When you're testing a software and you work for a company that deals with people's money, for example, and that day maybe didn't feel good. Maybe that day you were just tired. You just want to do a lazy day and you missed something, and the next day release went up. The company just lost $1 billion. Right? Because you just want to take a lazy day. Okay. It's okay for you to take the extra time though. Right? That's one of the reasons. Nobody tried to push QA. Nobody tried to say, oh, get this done tomorrow. I need this tomorrow. Nobody comes and tells you that. That's one of the good things for QA, because they know when they push QA, then things will go real bad. So it's always good to take it seriously, and come up with all the test scenarios that you can. So that way it doesn't create all these issues where people are world people are affected by your work. Okay, human losses and all that stuff. So this is like, okay, this is a few examples for those who doesn't know. In 2015 with F-35, I think a lot of people, there is a bug, especially in the software. I think that happened in 1994, killing 264 people. Okay, and in 1999, this bug actually caused 1.2 billion military satellite launch, and this was one of the biggest, costliest accident in the history. 1996, the bug caused bank accounts of 823 customers of major US bank to be credited with $920 million US. Think about, to retrieve those money back, it's going to be a lot of cost in terms of law and getting lawyers and all that stuff. But most importantly, if you ever in a situation where you work for a company that deals with like real world problems, you have to make sure that you're doing it right. It's always good to do it right rather than just, okay, I did a crash course 3 months and I'm here, I'll just think everything is black and white and pass, everything passes, right? And that doesn't make you a good QA. The good QA thinks everything is a bug until it's proven, right? Until you actually looked into it, and never ever say I tested it if you didn't. That's my one thing that I'll say in the whole my entire career, where the moment where I say I tested it, somehow only that one comes with problem, and I didn't test it, right? I mean, obviously some people, at least somebody does it like this at some point in their career, right? The moment you go there and be like, this I test this all the time and I don't think this will have issue. And then you go for a release and that specific thing has an issue and it's an obvious issue. What do you say after that? Like at that moment, you might as well just not even go to work because you'll be embarrassed in front of a lot of people, So never ever say I tested it. It's okay to say I didn't tested it. I don't have the time. Can somebody else give me a hand? Or you know what? I need the extra 20 minutes. I need 30 minutes. You know what? I'm actually looking at it. I was middle of testing. Let me finish it. Right. So always be honest with your work because this will actually come and bite you very quickly. Okay, software bugs and all that stuff. Obviously, Q&A, I'm gonna skip that because we want to move on a little bit. And maybe we'll take a small break if we need to. So let me know. And then we'll also discuss at the end if Wednesday and Thursday is good for you, or you guys want to do one day gap in the between and do Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll talk about all this stuff for upcoming classes. I'll probably also send out like notification to see who's going to be continuing, as today is the second session. Anyways, let's talk about specification. The specification or requirement, right? So basically, if you can't say it, you can't do it. So everything has to be documented. We don't just go based on somebody just tell us like, oh, okay, it should be this, right? So you have to know what product is before you can even say it has a bug, okay? You have to make sure that you know the product that requires for you to actually have a lot of hands-on, right? You have to act like a customer to make sure that you know the product. A specification defines the product being created and includes the functional requirements. So functional requirements basically describes the feature and how the product behaves, what are few things that product actually supports, for example. And these are a few examples, and I'll probably share this slide with you guys at the end so you guys can go over. And then there is some non-functional requirements also, right? Which is security, reliability, user friendliness, and platform. So for example, user friendliness is something that we test regardless, right? If you are struggling with a feature, imagine the user, right? They will probably pull their hairs with that feature that may be very painful to use. So then you have to raise it, right? You're not just going to be a robot. You're going to say, look, I'm having this problem using the application. I can only imagine the next, the user, the real user, what they will do. They'll probably just, go ahead and stop using it, right? So these are some of the testing types that is non-functional that will also be part of, and I'll talk about those. So let's move on. But again, any question about specification? Remember the first thing on your SDLC and the first thing on your STLC, okay? This is your requirement, functional requirement or specification is something that we take it as source of truth. Even your product owner comes to you and says, you know what, I agree to this change. He has to go and change the requirement. Okay, you can't just take their words. Okay, so these are some rules basically, so that way you can actually know exactly, you can basically quantify and say that this is a bug for sure, right? Like sometime, okay, so this is basically like a list of things, maybe a checklist for you to say, I don't have to go and ask 20 people now, about this issue. So let's say you found an issue and this is definitely 100% bug, and you also know that nobody else found it before because you checked the group messages and nobody talked about it. So you go ahead and log it. That's it. You don't have to go make a noise. You don't have to go and ask 2 other people, 3 other people, because 100% it's a bug, right? There is no need for you to go and bugging other people. Imagine like every time you find a bug and you go and ask like your product owner or like a business person or even the developer, every time you find a bug, then like, you're not really, helping. You're actually putting more work to the other person at this moment. So there will be situations where 100% is a bug because you have the product knowledge. Okay, so just let's go through this checklist here. So you kind of get more confirmation. Okay, this is the situation, then I don't have to ask for another person's opinion because I know it's a bug. So the software does not do something that the specification says it should do. Okay. Again, what is specification? Who can answer that?
The requirements?
Requirement, okay, requirement. So now, if the software does not do something that the specification say it does, it's a bug, right? The software does something that the specification say it should not do, okay? Now, you become very happy. Wow, this is a feature that I really, really wanted it because, you use the software all the time because you are the, last person acting as a user, and you go like, wow, this is pretty cool, and this was implemented, and you get really happy because this was implemented and it's nice and all, but then this is not on the requirement. You know, it's still a issue, it's still a bug, because you know why? Maybe we're releasing something early without knowing, or maybe somebody, you know, put this code that's supposed to go out later after announcement or whatever is the case, and you're just getting happy about it and pushing the code, you know, like giving your approval. So you know, that's another thing that you have to think, keep in mind. The software does something that the specification does not even mention. All right, that's another one. This is that you have to keep in mind. The software does not do something that the product specification does not mention, but should. Right, and then the software is difficult to understand and hard to use and slow. Right, this is where the usability comes from. If the user cannot even use it, no matter how nice it is, it makes no difference, right? So you have to use also your judgment. You have to also use some of your previous experiences to make sure that you look into the user friendliness. You have to also see, you know, some of the industrial standard, meaning obviously if you're surfing web, you also know how a checkbox behaves. You also know how a, you know, like let's say dropdown behaves. And now all of a sudden you see it behaves completely the opposite. You can ask a question. You can actually ask a question to a developer and to make sure that it is clarified and it is intended. Okay, so these are some statistics so you can actually use to keep things in mind. Most bugs are not because of mistake in the code. It could be, you know, 55% is a specification, which is requirement. Okay, so that means there is miscommunication between product owner and the developer, or that means the understanding of the developer is different than the understanding of a product owner, and they didn't communicate. Okay, the product owner understood something differently and they wrote it, and the developer understood completely opposite because they also read what they wrote. Okay, and that could be one of the reasons why there is a bug, and that's 55%. So most of your work, you know, you'll be just making sure that it is something that is intended. Then we have design. And I already talked about design, what are the challenges with the design. Some of the challenges is that, you know, just because somebody used Photoshop and made it look nice and all, developers cannot achieve that kind of, you know, design, you know, sometimes. So that could be one. Also, it could be like maybe on the Photoshop, the color is in a specific way, or the text is a specific way, and then when the implementation was done, it looks different on a frame. You're maybe using a full screen browser and you see a different frame, because developer he was using maybe a smaller, you know, window, and you're using a different window. Maybe they're using a different, even like the browser or something, right? So the design also matters, where you would have to match what you see on the application with the design to make sure it is at least, you know, look exactly the way that you know it looks like. But if it doesn't, there is a slight change, you still have to go and double check to make sure they agree to those changes. Then the coding is actually only 15%, and there is a reason, right? The coding issues are only 15% is because because it's code, it's easy to also, you know, find issues. So developers, not only they write the code, they also write their own test. You know, like they write test, and that is called unit test, right? So they test their code to make sure that it works, and they also test the feature before even giving it to you. You know, imagine like I'm building something and I don't even test my own work, right? I have to make sure it works before I give it to you. So that means you can't find an obvious issue. You can't really expect like, oh, I went to the page and nothing works. I went to the page, it's broken. Everything's broken. There is no chance. You know, you can't, let's say you went to a page and all of a sudden everything is blank, nothing is working. And you go to the developer, oh, it's not working. What's not working? Oh, the whole page is blank. It's not working. What did you do? And you already like accuse him, for this issue. Obviously, if that was the case, he would have known. That could be environment issue. That could be like conflict between, another person's code and his code. That could be issue between plugins that they use on the browser, right? It could be even your issue where you have like a, ad blocker on your browser or something, so which is blocking the content. So the way for you to approach this would be like, hey, I don't know if your code is there, but I see this specific issue. Do you have any idea why that is the case? And just go from there. Like start with soft, and I'm not saying like, talk to them politely at all times and baby them all the time. All I'm saying is just be professional and don't assume that he caused it, just have that room to say, think that he did his work, is just that it could be something else. It could be something else. It could be environment, it could be the server, it could be anything else, right? So always think like that. Let's talk about cost of bugs. It's going to be cost of your job too, meaning you're working somewhere and it's an obvious bug and you didn't catch it. Your manager can choose to like terminate, and if you're full-time, they will give you like a probationary period, and you'll have to show improvements and things like that. They might just ask you to do a course or something. But if you are a contractor, you're not gonna even be able to log into your system before even knowing that you can no longer work in the company. Your contracting company will be notified and you'll be done, right? You wouldn't even say bye to your coworkers. So just keep that in mind. People that you'll be working with, they're not stupid. Like, oh, I just because I did this and they will think I no, there is no think. I mean, just put yourself in the same shoes. If you were the manager, what would you do? And then you get the right answers. Now, let's talk about the cost of the bugs. Bugs are found later cost more to fix for many, many reasons. It's because number one is like, think about it. A developer already working with the code, he already have knowledge of the code, so he can actually fix it sooner if you can find the bug. You can't sit on it. You found a bug, oh, you know what? I'm gonna report this tomorrow. That's not the right way to do. You know what? I'm gonna list all my bugs and report it end of the week. That's also not the right thing to do. You're piling all these bugs and then giving it to him at once. Which one he's gonna fix, So as you find, you drop everything, you report the bug and move on. Because there is a chance where you causing more money, because later when the guy already moved on and he's working on a completely different code base, he has to go back and work on your bug, right? So if it's found in design cost, for example, these are just example numbers, $10. If it found in code, that's $100. If it found after the release, it's $1,000. So think about the 10 times basically here. And this also is a good question, right? Where you released software because you did testing and you feel good about it and everybody's happy, and then bug is found. That's really is, like one thing, right, that I want to also make sure some of you guys understand is that if you don't do the right thing, sooner or later it'll be found. Sooner or later, you'll have to answer the question like, okay, why didn't you test this? When the release goes out and there is so many bugs, trust me, they're gonna say, okay, you know what? What really happened, why we didn't find the bug during testing, right? And you'll have to explain. And it doesn't mean they're going to come and try to blame you. They will try to find out what is the reason, because they don't want that reason to happen again in the next release. So they will investigate. They will basically, the manager will probably say, okay, write me give me a email saying what happened there, because we have the test cases and somehow the test cases were passed and they didn't find any bugs. So what was the reason, right? So it's always good to make sure that you triple check everything, because that's our job, right? Nobody tests QA. Think about it. We're like, who QA's work? Right? We're just humans, right? We make mistakes too, but who, actually tests our work? Nobody. So it's better to always double check, triple check before we go and like, okay, yeah, it's good to go. Bug-free software. So software is obviously it cannot be bug-free. Software cannot be 100% bug-free, right? The other question I guess like that I wanted to raise before I move on with this slide is that, do you think every time you release, it's always gonna be like, oh wow, there is no bug? They have like a 24 hours time where maybe like they wait for somebody to report, even post-release, you would go and test and say, oh, everything is good, right? And but what if, let's say, after the release, the very next day, customers are reporting few issues that is, maybe like medium critical, like something medium, right? That has a workaround. They can actually still go about their days with the software, but there is some, issues that they found. But then you tested everything, and you did it right. What do you think we play the role after when we have a situation like this? What do you think we do? Who can tell me? After the release, I mean, I'm trying to prepare you for the real world. So if that happens, do you just, call your boss and say, I'm not coming to the office tomorrow and I will not come again? Or do you just turn off the computer and ship it to the HR? Or, you explain, or you try to investigate what really happened, come up with, what is the difference between your testing versus what happened in production, and come up with ways to prevent this in the future. And what if this was your fault? How even you handle this? Okay, let's start with first, it's your fault, right? You were testing 150 test cases. This one test case kind of just left through your mind, and it's your fault. And your manager, everybody is just on the group asking what's going on, why this bug, and they're going nuts. They're asking who tested this, and you're like, oh, those you, okay, what's going on? And now they want you to get on a meeting so you can explain what do you do?
You will apologize, I'm guessing, is the first thing to do. And
Okay.
and you have to show
But
proof. Oh,
how do you apologize while also hoping to make sure the job is still there, right? But what some ways professionally you can you can make sure that they're confident about you?
oh, you gotta show proof that you did your work.
Okay. You can, yeah, definitely. You can list all of your test cases and show them, this is what I executed, here's the date. And this one specific one somehow got skipped, which I have no idea how that happened. But in order to prevent this from the future, I am taking the following actions. So the next release, we don't face the same issues, right? And you're gonna say, hey guys, I wanna first, own up to this big, bug that happened in production. I don't know how this happened, but here is list of test cases that I have executed. Here's the results. Here's the dates that it shows. This specific one, I see that it still doesn't have a status change on that specific date. So I feel like it's a human error, and I have completely missed that one test case. In order to prevent this in the future, I have marked all of these test cases as critical, and I've also changed the setting. So if anything is missing on the folder, it will have an exclamation mark, so I know that I missed something. And so in the future, this shouldn't happen. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And when this bug is fixed, I'll be happy to retest everything and go ahead and push the fix, basically, right? Release the fix. So something like that, where you still feel happy. You don't feel like, oh, wow, you know, I messed up. But you have to own up to it, right? Imagine like, I'm the type of guy, you know, like this happened and the manager is like, hey, what just happened? I'm like, I don't know. I test everything. I swear to God, I test everything. Okay. So why this bug wasn't found? It was like this, I looked into the test case and this is supposed to be found if that was the case. And I tested myself. It's, you know, I found it when I tested this test case. So how did you miss it? Oh, no, I don't know what you did, but I test everything. Everything is good. Everything is good. Everything was good. I don't know what happened today. You know, this is, yeah, I can't, you know what? I don't know, you know, just go to whatever, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, you don't want to be defensive if you know that you missed it. Just, it's okay to say, okay, you know, I'll own up to it, guys. I'll take the blame. This is what happened. This specific test case was missed during the testing phase, and in order to prevent it, we're taking following measures, and so it doesn't happen again. That's it. That's the way you're gonna be.
Joe, I have a
Now the
question.
other.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I understand that you're trying to prove like a different approach to perhaps keeping your job, but let's say the magnitude of the mistake is too broad, like and you like, let's say it wouldn't matter how much you apologize. At the end,
You're
you run
done.
better chances of
No matter what.
apologizing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying no matter what, you caused an issue, and no matter what, you're gone, right?
Yeah, like let's say, okay, you take your approach.
Yeah, but
right?
then you still need an exit message, right? You don't want to be.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave with a, you know,
With a
heavy
bad
heart.
impression. Yes.
Yeah, with a bad impression. You don't want to leave with like where you're basically done for the rest of your life. You never want to come back to here because this puts you in a traumatic situation.
Right.
But you basically own to it, and you're gonna say that yes, it's my mistake. I missed it, and you know, obviously this should never happen. But if you're doing this course, it shouldn't happen, right? Because we're talking about it.
Right.
But if it does happen, and you know, human makes mistake, I don't think you'll be done if you follow the first approach and you jump on it right away. So this is like, this is what I would do. If the bug was found in production, I would jump right on to first investigate to see if the issue was mine, if the fault was mine or not. Within the 10 minutes, I should be able to find out if I missed it or this is an issue on the production. In that 10 minutes, I will provide my feedback right away. Hey guys, I noticed this bug that was found, and I went and looked all of my test cases that I have executed, and I realized that we don't have a test case for this specific scenario. So that's why it was missed. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a test case. And when the bug is fixed, please let me know. I'll be the one testing. That's it, right? So it's not your fault. Or, hey guys, I went ahead and looked and I realized that we had 500 test cases, and one of the test cases was missed because it was marked as low priority, and we decided to skip the low priority for this specific release, and this caused this issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the priority of the test case, and I'm gonna take a few other measures to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? So it really depends how soon you're jumping in. If you have to be part of the team, if you're jumping in early in that conversation and you go like, oh, let me see what happened, you know, and then you compare what you tested versus what is on the production after the release, and then you find some sort of gaps, then you can come up with your defense, right? And say, oh, looks like my environment is good. I tested the same thing here in my QA environment and it's working, but then in production it's not working. That means it's something to do with the configuration, maybe something to do with the environment. And then you tell the developer, right? So that way they can get help. They know that, okay, if this is not an issue related to code, then maybe it's the configuration. So you're actually helping, you're investigating the problem, finding the root cause. So you have to first jump in, find the root cause, helping the entire team. So you're with the team already. Even if you were to blame, you're already with the team putting all these efforts and you're owning up, it's already looking good, right, for you. But if you release is done and then you go on a silent and the bug is, people are talking about the bug and you go like, oh, I'm gonna close my eyes, I'm gonna go ahead and close my ears because I think this is my problem, even though you haven't looked into it, you don't even know if this is your problem, right? That's gonna be the killer, right? That's where you will probably quit yourself, because remember, we are all human, we all have feelings, and this is gonna probably affect you mentally and you'll probably quit, and we don't want that. You want to stay in the career, you want to be happy, you want to sleep good at night, then I would say just do the right thing and you'll be fine. All right, go move on. Okay, so do you think bug-free software is unattainable? So that's one question. Is basically, to put it another way, do you think we can have a software that is 100% bug-free? Can we have it, basically? Who can say that? Can we have a software where there is no bugs?
Not really, because there will be updates afterwards, and do you have to be able to do another test cases for that?
Okay, and not even that. Like sometimes you'll see like there is in your backlog, there's 50 bugs sitting and waiting to be fixed. And developer saying, no, we're not gonna fix those. But those exist. Those are already in the production. Maybe those are not very high priority. Maybe they, the reason why they're not a priority is because maybe like it's not affecting them as much, but they're still a bug. Right. And they can't just go ahead and make it 100% bug free. That's when the problem happens, right? Where you put so much time and effort where you're not focusing at the product. A lot of times where you will see they want to make sure the product is design specific to a need of the customer so they can make money. It's okay to have smaller issues. Some teams you'll see like before release, they will evaluate. Let's say QA found 20 bugs for that release, but they're not gonna fix all 20. They will discuss, it's called bug triage, by the way, where they will talk about it. They will go ahead and say, okay, you know what? These 5 bugs are very, very, low priority. They're not affecting any customers, but we should fix it. But for this release, we can't. We don't have the time. Otherwise, it's going to be a moving target, right? You don't want to be a moving target. That means a feature is added, there is bugs. And now you cannot release because you have to fix the bug. You fix that bug, there is few bugs. There is another bug. And it just becomes a moving target. So when do you release? You never release them. So now your product is not out there, customers are not using it, so you're not getting paid, right? So that's why they have to have some sort of like, checklist to say, if I have this many bugs and out of these bugs, there is, we will let few bugs slide. And those bugs could be very, very low priority. And they will, everybody will make that decision and you'll be part of it. And you can actually say, no, I don't agree to this. I don't want this bug to go to the production. This is painful for me. And I can only assume how painful it will be for the customers, right? So you'll have a lot of opinion there for you to, for you to tell. So think about that. Let's go, I guess these questions. Goal of software testers. So this is you basically, the first thing is you finding a bug to make sure that, you find as especially like, you want to make sure that the user friendliness is good, software is bug free, it's doing what it should. And you find as early in the development process as possible, not at the end. So like I give you a task, I give you an assignment, and the assignment has a due date of 2 weeks. Okay. And you go like, oh, wow, I'm going to go ahead and now, like, just go ahead and enjoy my week and a half. And then the last 3 days, I'm gonna go ahead and finish that ticket because there's nothing else to do. You know, what kind of issues do you think you will face if you do that?
You can always encounter like other bugs and you won't have enough time.
Yeah, so like let's say on 2 days before the due date, you found a bug and the developer needs to fix it. Developer can ask you a question, why didn't you reach out? When was this assigned to you? Oh, why didn't you tell me early? You know, why are you telling me now? And then you would have to go and tell your manager, oh, I'm not done because there's a bug and I'm just waiting for that to fix. Okay. Well, this was assigned to you like 2 weeks ago. When did you find the bug? I mean, if the manager wants to be critical, they will ask you those questions, you know, but also, why don't you just find the bug early? So that way they can fix it early and you can have much more testing because you're compromising quality. You know that, right? Because the whole reason is having multiple QA in the team, aside from developers, is because that nobody wants to compromise quality. Because you are doing your task toward the end of the, you know, close to the due date, you're compromising quality because at that time, oh, I just want to get this done and move on. And you're just praying to God that there is no bug so you can close the ticket. You're just praying. So what happens when you have wishful thinking? You know, you will be delusional. You will probably say, okay, there is no bug because that's what you want to find. You sometimes end up finding what you want to find, right? Because in your mind, you're going to say, oh, there's no bug. Okay, I'll close. It's finished, tested, everything looks good, and done. Okay, testing is not that easy. That's the only thing I want to say. Like some people will take it so lightly. Oh yeah, I looked at it, everything looks good. But then that's what the developer did. The developer already did that. You don't have to duplicate his work. What you need to do is be critical. What you need to do is that you want to go and make sure your scenarios are tested. You want to make sure that you didn't miss a scenario. You want to make sure that you actually break the system. You know, like I guess like goal of a tester is not just to find a bug, but breaking it. Like at what point can we break? And then tell them this is what happens. If somebody on the application do this, they can break the system. So you should be breaking the system. Okay. All right. So there are some interviewing questions. Again, like everything that we discussed so far, you know, should make you a good tester, right? You have to be a good software tester for you to become a good QA engineer, meaning like, okay, both positions are similar, right? It's just that one where you do some coding and automation to be efficient. But if you are really a bad tester, you cannot be a good, you know, automation person, right? Your mind has to be very, very critical. Like, think about it. Like if you go in on shopping and the guy says, okay, this is $15 and oh, okay, great, I'll take it, right? And you're supposed to bargain and you didn't bargain, then you're not the, you know, same mindset. Like let's say quality wise, okay, you're buying a product and you only spend 2 minutes on Amazon instead of saying, okay, let me see what else is out there with similar quality for the similar price, you know? And you go for hours, and that's the kind of mindset you need, you know, to be a tester, to be a good tester, because it's all about, you know, putting the time and being very, very critical, very critical. These are some of the interviewing, like these are some of the personalities I would say an interviewer will look for. Okay, so sometimes I've seen actually over the years, sometimes you do, you know, you don't end up, you know, answering 100% of the questions, but you still get a job. And it's because they kind of see the potential. You know, everybody's a human. Even the person who's taking your interview is a human. So if they feel like you have potential, they will hire you. And sometime, and actually this is one of the true part where a brand new person who just did 3 months, 4 months, or 5 months of class went to an interview and he got the job. And a person who has 2 or 3 years of experience didn't get the job. Okay. And one of the reason is because one is prepared and the other one isn't, right? The other person is like, oh no, I already know it. I already did it. And I don't need to prepare myself. And the new person who just jumping into the career. So it's okay, I have to use whatever I can. I have to leverage myself with anything that I need so that way I can at least, make it. And that's one of the reasons why like 5, 6, 7, 8 years of, experienced people sometimes end up not getting a job. And people with like, those crash courses in Jackson Heights and Jamaica and like Bronx, even New Jersey, they end up getting a job because, they do the work. So think about it. And also a person brand new, never worked, joining a QA team, end up doing better job than the person who worked for 6 or 7 or 8 years. For 2 reasons. One is that if somebody's working there for 6, 7, 8 years, they don't want to do all those like manual, they don't want to do all those like smaller things that you would be like, oh wow, this is fascinating, I want to do this, right? You would do it. And that person wouldn't, like, oh no, I already know how application works and this and that. And it's not true for everybody, right? There are people that are like, they're born to be critical, like they're never happy with anything. And these are the personalities, they're really good at QA. Regardless of the time, right? So everything that I say, take it with a little bit of salt. Are they troubleshooters, right? So let's say something happened and you go like, oh, it's not working, I'm gonna report it, that's it. No, but you have to investigate, you have to find root cause. You have to see, like, for example, let's say you're testing something and your browser has an issue, let's say cache and cookie issue or something, some cookie related, and now you're going crazy, and you get on a call with the IT help desk of your company, and they sit down and they go like, okay, what do you want me to do? Oh, my browser is not working and it's all this and that. And they go and be like, oh, okay, well, this is your cache and cookie issue. I mean, and they go ahead and clear that, and now you're able to test. That's pretty much like crazy, right? That's kind of crazy because that IT help desk guy is not supposed to be more technical than you are, right? That IT help desks don't make as much as we do, right? Their job is to make sure that infrastructure and the systems, the computer they use are up to date, and they help with access and things like that, right? But now imagine that person is helping you and it's related to your testing. That's embarrassing, right? So you have to be able to, even if you don't know it, Google it. Even if you don't know it, ChatGPT it, whatever is the case, you got to troubleshoot, you got to follow through, and make sure you do it. The other way for you to think about, if you are a person who doesn't follow manual, meaning like you're building, let's say, a scooter for a kid, and you go like, oh, I know how this works, I'm gonna go ahead and do it without looking into the manual, and you know exactly where the piece goes, and you do it, then you don't have a QA personality, okay? Because you can end up doing double the work at some point. Maybe you're gonna make a mistake, you're gonna put different bolts in different areas where they shouldn't be, and that's gonna cause quality issue. It's always good to read the manual and go from there. So that means you're gonna be reading your requirement as many times as you need until you have a full knowledge of the requirement, and go from there. Are they relentless? Just because something didn't work and you go back to sleep, something didn't work. Let's say you work from home and you tried once. Oh man, server went down. I'm gonna go ahead and go to sleep now. Oh, you know what? I was trying to test this and somehow the application keep crashing. I'm gonna go ahead and go to sleep. Do whatever, right? You have to be relentless. You have to keep trying until you get to a conclusion, whether it's a bug, whether it's not a bug, and then you report it, again, and then move forward with the next task. You shouldn't be the person where they should be reaching out like, hey, here's another task. We don't do that especially in QA, because remember, you're joining as an engineer, so you have to be treated like an engineer. So if you don't have assignments, don't just go ahead and sit around and hope that nobody finds out. Just look and see what else is out there and start assigning those work to yourself and work on it. The more work you do is better for you because the more knowledgeable you get. So just think about it. Are they creative? You know, that's like already given. You have to be. No matter what job you're applying to, you know, you need to be creative. Are they perfectionist, right? Within reasons, and that's think about it, right? Again, you cannot be 100% on perfectionist side, but you have to be, right? In this case, we get paid to be perfectionist, right? We get paid to find smaller, detailed kind of issues. And even if you let go, like think about it. Let's say you be generous, right? You really like your coworkers, and you go and be like, okay, this is an uppercase. I'm gonna just let it go. It's just a one word. What's gonna happen? The next release, there is another one, something like that. I'm gonna be very lenient. I'll go ahead and let it go. And the next release, there's another one. Now what's happening is that you just created a lot of inconsistencies in the software. Okay, so now everywhere the software people look, even like customers are using the software. I'm like, oh my God, why is this uppercase in the middle of nowhere? And then I see the other side where this area, it has this and that and this. The smaller issue adds up, you know, over time. And you're just letting things go. And that's where the problem is, because you were hired specifically to find this issue, and you're just being generous to the developers or whatever is the case, or you just want to please everybody. And that's where the problem, right? Because you're not doing your job now, right? Your only job is to find issues. Okay, it doesn't matter who gets upset. You know, you wanna make sure people are upset. You know, you want to be the person where a developer refuses to give you their tasks so you can test them because they're scared that you're going to find too many bugs. You want to be that person where developers are like, oh my God, nah, I don't want, Fabio to test this because he's going to end up finding, too many bugs. So I'm going to give it to somebody else who's more easy. You want to be that person, right? Because it doesn't cost us money, to delay or take a little bit of more time to test. It's good to be critical, so they know even if you're taking time that you're doing it right, and that's what they care about, doing it right. Good judgment is another one. You can't be like like if somebody tell you something, retain that information, write it down, whatever is the case, and use that judgment in the future too, rather than going back again and again and say, hey, what about this? And like, okay, didn't you ask me this like last 2 weeks ago, and now you have the same question? So always use the good judgment and make judgment, but again, don't make product decision. Always try to get an opinion from the product before you say, okay, I'm okay with this or I'm not okay with this. Are they tactful and diplomatic? Obviously, that's something that I talked about. Don't just go and start blaming people and things like that. Just be diplomatic and just say, oh, could it be something that you missed? Could it be that your code has this issue? You don't have to already say, okay, your code has an issue, fix it. That's very hurtful to somebody who actually built that code. Think about it, right? You build something and then I'm like, nah, it's not working. You have this issue exactly here. No, it's better to be like more like, oh, there is this specific thing that I see. It could be an issue. I'm gonna go ahead and log it for the record. I'll send it over to you. Just have a look and let me know what you think. We can jump on a call to discuss the issue, right? So there is many ways for you to approach, and just be professional, because again, like you're working with people that have been, they graduated with like a bachelor or even master degree in computer science. They spent the first 5 to 6 years as an intern, and then they started as a junior, so they went through that road, and now you're all of a sudden treating them like nothing, and it's just going to be really, really hurtful. So just keep those in mind. And obviously you'll find people that are hurtful to you, but just don't take it personally. Just just treat them professionally, and obviously stand your ground too. You don't want to be like so lenient where everything is okay to you. No, stand your ground within reasons. Okay, so today. I mean, obviously we're gonna move on. There are a few more things left in the slide. But I think we should probably stop at this point and then discuss more on the homework. And I want to discuss a little bit about the future classes and what you guys will be okay with. So now what you learned today is what is a bug. Is there any question on the bug side? You know, the new guys, right? If there's anything at all that you feel like, oh no, I have no idea what my job is, right? So, okay, you know what? I'm probably gonna ask you guys questions. So let's ask a question to Krishi, right? What do you think your job is as a QA engineer? Now that we went through all this stuff, you know, what do you think you'll be doing? Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but I will move on to, let's say, who could be the next person that I want to choose? Okay, MD Hassan. Okay, let's say you meet me. Okay, I'm gonna give you a better question, right? Okay, I'm in your building, you know, and this is post-COVID, before COVID, let's say, right? You work in Manhattan. I just walked in and we're just like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, oh, and you go like, oh, I work in 4th floor, and and I ask you, what do you do? You know, what would you say?
Can you repeat again, please?
So I'm in an elevator with you, and like, let's say I'm just you know, a person, and in the same building, and I just meet you in the elevator, and I ask you a question like, oh, hey, how are you? And then you go like, yeah, I work in the same office as you. Oh, really? What do you do? You know, like elevator, you know, speech, right?
Oh, I really
So you're a QA, right? And somebody asks you, what do you do? Like, okay, I don't know what QA does. Like, let's say I'm just I'm a marketing guy.
okay. So as a QA, I can explain them. I have to make sure the application is reliable for release where I'm working. I have to test to make sure that there is no defect or bugs. This is my job uh, before release or before user use. I have to make sure based on the requirement. So basically, I test the application where I have a procedure to test the application throughout the development lifecycle and make sure it can uncover the bugs and also make sure the application is built what we expected and customer receiving everything what they asked for. So basically, as a QA, I'll do this and that.
Right. Now, this is good. This is good. This is more details, you know, than what I anticipated. But you know, sometime in the elevator we just go short. Like, yeah, I just test the application, you know, find bugs. Very simple. But no, this is what I was expecting, which is good. But like as a QA, let's say now, okay, let's talk about, I mean, let's go over these questions anyways, so that we can get a little bit more clarity, because I just want to make sure that everybody's clear about the role and what you are doing within this role, and you understand exactly. So now let's say you joined my company. I am a QA manager, and I don't have a lot of working experience because I'm managing for the last 10 years. You know, I don't know what you actually do. You know, I don't really care what you do. I just only care about, you know, hiring people and have them finish the task. That's it. Okay. Now, the first day I tell you like, okay, why don't you tell me what will you do in order to finish this task? You know, who wants to answer this? Okay, let me choose because you guys are not gonna. I'm gonna choose somebody that, you know, obviously that I know that's not working, because it's gonna be too easy for them. So Jahidul, you want to answer that?
Could you repeat it again?
Okay, so the question is, it's your first day and I just assigned you a task, but then I'm a manager. I'm very curious how will you carry out your testing? So I'm just saying, hey, can you just walk me through like what will you do to finish this task? So I want to make sure that you're doing it right.
So basically, so like, I would show them like, what I do, like, wait, what was like the question? Like, is it like connected to this? Like, how, like, I don't really understand it.
You understand? Okay, I'm going to clarify one more time. Let's say you get an assignment, but then the manager is concerned that maybe like, okay, maybe the manager thinks they don't know your stuff, right?
Okay.
And he sits on your desk and like, okay, Jago, I want you to tell me step-by-step process that you will take to finish this task. What do you do first, and then next, and the next, and the next? Explain to me.
Oh, like step by step.
To finish the work, let's say it's your first day, and somehow the manager is pissed off, and he just wants reasons to go off at you, and he's asking this question because usually they never ask this question. But I'm asking you because I want to prepare you for this.
Okay, so like basically like, okay, I think I would like, hold on.
So you're basically now defending yourself, right? To say I have experience, so I'm gonna be doing this. I'm gonna be using this technique, that technique, whatever, right? And we talked about it. We talked about it very early. I think we did yesterday as well.
Oh, okay, so like, like studying the requirements and stuff, and like testing scenarios, like testing cases and stuff like
No,
that.
but you gotta, but your job is on the line, so you can't just go like, okay, I'm gonna just do this stuff and that stuff, right? I want you to tell me in a very professional way.
Oh, okay,
I'll give you a hint if that helps. What is the engineering process of testing?
What's the what?
The engineering process that we talked about of testing. What is the process of testing that we even talked about?
Oh, like the SDLC and the TLC.
Right. So STLC has phases,
I
and
see.
that actually the formula of you doing the testing, right? Where first I'm gonna go ahead and study the requirement. I'm make sure that I understand it. If I don't understand, I'm gonna go and talk to the business. I'm gonna make sure all these questions are clarified, and then I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, right? So all of these steps, right? You can actually use it to your advantage. And this is one of the question. The reason why I ask is because, when you join a company and you're doing your assignments, you'll be like, oh my God, what should I do next? I have no idea. What am I going to do? And you're fearful, you're just panicking. And all of that is unnecessary because as long as you know STLC, you can say, oh, okay, I looked at the requirement, I studied it, I actually wrote the test scenario. What could be done next in this team? So now you can actually just go and ask like, hey, I wrote the test scenarios. I was just wondering, do you guys write test cases, or do you guys just go and based off the test scenarios? And can you just walk me through the first, assignment a little bit? Because I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. With my previous job, I did this, right? Compared to you have no idea. You would be like, oh my God, it's better for me to just stay quiet, collect 2 weeks of paycheck, and then just leave. Because you have no idea. You wouldn't be able to ask questions because you don't know if they will have a follow-up. Like, okay, what do you mean? Like, imagine like you got a task and then you ask them like, what should I do with this task? Can you help me? Like, they're like, what do you mean? Where do you need help? Like, where are you stuck? Right? Nobody's gonna do your work, right? So they will just say, where do you want me to help? And you go like, everything. I don't know. Just tell me everything.
Oh, so like,
Or you
yeah,
could
so
just say,
basically,
Yeah, or you could just say, well, I looked at the requirement, I studied it, and I'm ready to go. But, you know, do you guys write test scenarios or we just go straight to test cases? And you go like, oh, straight to test cases. Okay, great. Okay, can you tell me the format? Like, I want to know like the template of test case. I want to see an existing test case so I can follow that. Oh, okay, no problem. Here's the existing test case. Done, right? And you can just move on with your life. Compared to like, oh, I don't know, tell me, you know what, tell me everything. And now you have really no idea, you know, where to go and kind of like putting yourself in a very difficult situation because, you know, the fundamentals and smaller questions that you should be asking here, you didn't ask. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, okay.
With that said, it's like 9, and obviously, you know, these questions right here, I'm probably going to include that into the homework, so you guys can do it. And now let's talk about, before we finish, you know, like few of the things that I want to talk about. One is that the homework. Okay, so only 5 people did it, and we're gonna be grading. I didn't actually grade because of that reason, because let me just actually pull up the all right, so let's look at the first one real quick. And we have a lot of quizzes that are ready to go every class after, so you're always gonna get a homework. I just want to make sure that your expectation is the way, you know. Okay, so January, let's look at January. These are previous class answers. So from the January, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people did it, and that's it, right? So, oh no, sorry, not 5. Okay, like about 7 to 8 people did it, right? So now for those who didn't do it,
Wait, what? I'm sorry. Why does it say 0 on mine when I have?
no, yeah, 0 means we didn't grade it yet. We're gonna grade it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So we'll grade it, like, as you can see, like previously, people actually got extra points and stuff.
Jill, I don't think mine is showing up there either.
Okay, so I need to see why. Maybe it's in a different version, so I'll take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have multiple versions of these quizzes. Okay. Now, this is like some sample answer, like some of the answer from my previous students. As you can see, and as you can see how detailed and big this is before even ChatGPT. Okay? So I did mention about ChatGPT that you guys can use, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have understanding. You can use ChatGPT to have it explain to you so you know it, and then you can, you know, with that knowledge you write it, because at the end of the day, you have to know it, right? You have to learn it. So you'll see, like, I'll be asking questions whenever you get a homework. You will be asked those questions randomly to make sure that you actually know it, you know. So spend whatever time you spend in ChatGPT. Before you write it here, just understand it, whatever ChatGPT tells you, then write it, right? So that way you get the knowledge and I have no problem for you to use ChatGPT, right? But if you don't have the knowledge, that's the problem. The other thing that I also don't want is people memorizing, right? So don't memorize it. If you don't understand it, tell ChatGPT to, you know, tone it down a little bit, give you more easier way to explain, maybe even more easier, like whatever you can, you know, ask as many questions you need until you get the knowledge that you need, and then finish the quiz. Now the third quiz is hard because it requires for you to watch videos and requires for you to look at the, you know, let's go into the third quiz real quick. And the third one, scenarios, okay, that's the one, I believe. Okay, let me go and preview this real quick. Okay, this is the third quiz where we talked about test scenarios, test cases, and testing techniques. Today it's like pretty much the manual version, right? And I don't want to spend too much time manual because, again, I mentioned in the very beginning is that even manual test cases, after joining, you'll be able to get a lot of help from ChatGPT and other AI, sources to be able to come up with much more, scenarios. So I don't want to spend too much time on manual side, but I want you to spend the time so that way. And this is for people that are completely new to this, right? So the third quiz is going to actually test your knowledge. And, like, for example, watching the video. And then after that, you see like ChatGPT is not going to help you this, right? So you gotta see what this does, you gotta understand, and then come up with all your test, scenarios, right? So 10 test scenarios, for example, here. And then you got the login, where you come up with all the login, as you can see, these many test cases. So it requires time. You got the APM for creating, so once you finish this, then you're pretty much done on the manual side. Honestly, like I don't see what else on the manual side do you need aside from tools, which we will cover. But manual side should be, pretty much like really like what do you need, right? STLC. You got the studying the requirement, which you already know, right? You got to create the test cases, test scenarios. You got to create the test cases, and you got to create bugs. That's it. That's like the entire manual test, testing process. So yeah, so basically next class, we're going to be more on the technical side, and we're going to be writing code. And that means you're on a bootcamp mode, right? You will be spending minimum 3 to 4 hours daily studying. And if you don't, it's going to be very, very apparent. Like, if you don't spend the time, it's going to be very much, telling. Like you will be able to, you will give me indication like, okay, I haven't done anything. And as the class, as you dig deeper in the class and go more and more, you're going to lose interest because you're now on more advanced classes and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's not make that happen. Let's try to stay in sync. The other thing I want to ask is, do you guys prefer Tuesday and Wednesday, or do you guys prefer the Wednesday and Thursdays similar timing for the next week, and then moving on will be the same time, 7 to 9.
It cannot be Tuesdays and Thursdays. You say about a gap in the middle, no, right?
Yeah, trying to have one day so you guys have time for the homework,
Yeah, like Tuesdays and Thursdays. I don't know. Maybe that's a good idea.
Okay.
Are we studying
Anybody
weekends
else?
as well or not?
Yeah, the weekend's gonna be on your own, doing homeworks and studying.
Oh, okay.
Because keep in mind, like when you get a coding homework, obviously you got the ChatGPT there, but doesn't mean that you learned it, right? So you'd have to, explain to me what you wrote in terms of code, right? And sometime we're gonna be live coding, right? We'll be writing, code together. And at the end, we're going to look into and see who's finished and who's not, right? So that's why, again, it's going to be a lot of the time. Again, I need people to make sure that they're really getting into automation and not have fear. If I just go ahead and be like, okay, don't worry about the code, we get the ChatGPT, don't worry about it, don't do nothing. Problem is going to be the fear. When ChatGPT gives you code, you have no idea what that code is. You have no idea. So I want to make sure that at least the basics are done. You want to know what the code is at least, the bare minimum, before you even jump into writing automated tests. We're going to do that. Okay, so Thursday and Tuesday it is, unless somebody have, sorry, no, people are saying Thursday and Tuesday. So that will be based on the vote. Already Tuesday and Thursday is winner, because I think 3 or 4 people already posted about that. If anybody has any issues, just let me know, but I will change the schedule based on this. The next thing is, I'm going to be sending out a poll, right? I'm going to be sending out like a question like, hey, are you going to be continuing with us? Because today is the second class. And if you do continue, just say yes, so I know who to include for upcoming classes, and I'll just directly invite you from the upcoming classes. And for those that are just, viewing because, like even if you're like working, I know like some of you guys are working already in the field and you want to go get deeper into automation, you can still stay, not a problem. Just let me know that you'll be here so I can enforce the homework part, right? Because I don't want to be like reaching out to you and say, hey, you didn't do the homework. And you go like, no, but I'm just here for 2 more days, So I don't want to do that. So just make sure you let me know you'll be continuing so I can actually tell you like I need the homework to be done. And again, anybody like I said, I'm pretty serious about anybody with lost interest will be dropped. Okay, because end of the day, I don't want to be, forcing this knowledge onto your head if you have other priorities in life. Everybody goes through different phases, and I don't know where you are in your life. So, when I notice that this is not your first priority, then I will be asking you to discontinue. And it's because you are shooting for a job that will pay you bare minimum 120 as a QA engineer. And then you don't have time to spend 3 to 4 hours only for the 3 months, for the next 3 months, then that's just tells me your priorities in different places. So just keep in mind, and even this is true for people that are working already, like if you're working in a field, great, not a problem. But if you're going to be joining the class and doing automation, I want to make sure that you guys actually follow. I don't want to have one person not following and the other person is following. It's not fair to the person who's going to be following everything. I will send out the syllabus. We do have a syllabus, but that is for Selenium and other tools. But this is a completely new tool, new automation. I don't think anybody's teaching yet within our community. So consider yourself lucky because this is one of the tools that everybody wants now, and everybody's moving away from Selenium. Companies are moving away from Selenium for many, many reasons. One of the reasons is because you can actually write a test within 10 minutes compared to spending 2 days, right? Because, the tool makes everything easy. And that's why. And the other thing is getting a job in using these tools is easier because nobody knows what kind of question they're going to ask you. Like let's say I'm a manager, I just want this new shiny thing in my team. I want this person to come in and implement it. And now I'm hiring. I don't even know what kind of question I should ask you because I don't even know like the tool itself. I'm just trying to get into the new tech, within my team. So that doesn't mean they will not research and find the questions. They will, but you would be able to, at least get around, a lot of the questions. There will be less questions compared to going into Selenium and Java. Java is going to kill you during the interview process. And same thing for Selenium because everybody knows Selenium. So when you say something completely wrong, they will know, right? So let's see, next class, we're going to be, maybe like we'll start with few test cases we're going to write. So you get a little bit boost in terms of your interest. And then we're going to go into learning some programmings. And then we're going to go back to writing tests. And then we're going to continue writing tests. We're going to basically keep writing tests until you feel comfortable. All right. I will see you guys on Tuesday, since Tuesday was the winner. And Tuesday and Thursday, so I'll change that. And just, keep your eyes onto the WhatsApp group for now. And, continue join on time so that way we can, that way we don't have to drop you or anything like that. Because, like if you're not communicating and you show up one day and the next day you don't show up, you're not going to be accepted. Because it's like, it's not fair to those who does it, right? People who's actually being professional, at least letting us know that, hey, I can't join tomorrow. It's perfectly fine. You have some exceptions, but it's not fine if you just want to come and go, it's not fine. So soon the group is going to be locked. Right now it's open. If you notice, everybody can join. Even on Zoom, when you join, you get admitted in the beginning, but the moment it's going to be locked, is going to be only those people. All right, guys, have a good night. Yeah. So I want people to finish these 3 because today, whatever we covered is very related to those 3 homework. And I would say if you finished it, I will give an extra homework, if anything, like maybe some research on the playwright itself, because automation wise, understanding takes a little bit of time. Like, oh, these tools. Sometimes people think like, wow, this is like crazy technical, but it's really not. You just have to take it easy. You gotta tell yourself like, okay, no. A human build this, and I'm a human. I can learn it. So for now, I'm not thinking of homework because people need to finish, especially those who's considering staying and coming in next Tuesday. I need the homework to be done by Saturday. Because I'm gonna grade the homework on Saturday, 5 p.m. and anything else after that, I will leave it ungraded. So because that's the day I'm gonna be spending on grading the homework. Alrighty.
Will you send us the result?
Oh yeah. You'll get an email result. Like you'll basically, as soon as the grading is done, Google will send an email with the results and feedback, basically. So you'll get an email saying, okay, you did right, and each question will have a feedback. If anything, you'll get points for questions, and at the end you'll see if you made 70%, 80%, whatever is the case.
All right.
All right, guys, and yeah, next time, I guess, like moving forward, we'll do a break. I mean, I know like what I wanted to do the first 2 classes, just like pretty much get to the point, just get this thing out of the way, so that way we can get to the bigger goals, right? This is fine, pressure plus knowing exactly what you need to do in the QA field, but also automation is the primary focus because that's where we're going to spend most of the time. Manual, you're going to learn as we go, and you'll have to spend your time to learn a little bit more also. We don't want to spend too much time on the manual side. With that said, I'll end that night, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Joe. Thank you.
You have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.